going on, guys? You're back at the Site4Sports, and I'm your host, Daniel Smith. We're here talking NCAA basketball. So back to my 5 for 5 for last week. The only game I didn't call correctly was that Michigan State game. I thought State would take it, but Burke, Novak, Hardaway, they had other plans, and they pulled one out at home. The Missouri-Baylor game was insane. Baylor Bears, they really hung around longer than I thought they would. I know they were at home and all, but after taking a beating like that at Kansas, your confidence is shaken, so they put up a good game. The next time those two teams meet, it's going to be a match of titanic proportions. Nebraska, Indiana. I called this game as soon as I saw it next coming up on the schedule. Indiana just got manhandled at Ohio State. I don't care what ranking Ohio State is or what ranking they aren't. Any team that gets beat that bad, they don't know what type of team they are. You go in there second guessing yourself. In Indiana, they're not an athletic team to begin with, and so there's a lot of pressure on them to really perform now, and they're the type of team I think that would take losses in bunches, and they can't do that. They do not want a middle seed heading into the tournament because they could be out in the first round. They do have the potential to be a really good team though, so watch out for those guys. Florida State, Duke. This game, I knew this game was coming just because of the way that Florida State manhandled North Carolina. So they're walking into Cameron Indoor looking like giant killers, and they stomped on Duke. You can say, well, the game was only a 3-point game. They won, with the last second shot of the game. To be honest, any team that's close to a number 4 team in the nation deserves to win the game, and that should be taken as a loss from Duke even if they did win. Florida State is unranked. Yeah, they did beat North Carolina, but really, what else have they really done in their resume? Not that much. They can play ball. I'm not saying they can't, but Duke should have been able to handle them at home. They didn't, and that's all she wrote. Next, Notre Dame, Syracuse, boom. I called this game as soon as Notre Dame got that home streak snapped. I know how big the Irish are on keeping tradition rolling, and so when they had that home streak snapped and I saw the Orange rolling in the next week, I knew one more undefeated was going down. Syracuse pretty much got manhandled. The score was only a 9-point game, but if you really watched it, you could tell Notre Dame was under control for the majority of the game. Virginia Tech, Battle of the South. Virginia Tech pulls it out. The Cavaliers, don't worry about them though. They're a really good team. They'll give Duke a run for their money as well. They actually played them well already. It's going to be a good game coming up again. Cincinnati, UConn. I called this game as well. Cincinnati's a tough team to play against. Anyone that plays Cincinnati knows that. UConn's a good team, but Cincinnati, they're really rough and tumble. They will beat you up down low, and they will win close games. They went into UConn with the Huskies, and they did that.
5, 4.
Oh, here we go, guys. It's the 5 for 5 for this week. Last week I was pretty good. I'm not going to make any crazy predictions this week. There aren't any huge games coming up, but I'm just going to point out a couple. First of all, right off the bat, Syracuse and Cincinnati. I'm picking Cincinnati again. Not necessarily to win, but they're going to give Syracuse a game. As I said, Cincinnati is a tumble team. They like to slow down the game and just meticulously beat you up. Syracuse is fragile right now, coming off their first loss. Their confidence is a little shaken. Their heart is a little stamped on right now, and so they're really vulnerable, and Cincinnati can possibly take that. Baylor, Oklahoma, same difference, except Baylor has 2 back-to-back heartbreaking losses. Oklahoma isn't necessarily competition, but you're going on the road. Who knows what could happen? This is probably, to me, even though it's not the biggest of ranked teams, this is probably the biggest game of the week. Duke and Maryland. Duke and Maryland always play each other tight. Back to the Grievous Vasquez days. Duke's going into Terps territory. This game is going to be crazy. They're going to have the place sold out. Watch out for another upset. Indiana, Wisconsin. I feel bad for Indiana. This is a terrible part of the schedule. I'm picking them to take another loss here. Wisconsin plays tough anywhere, especially at home. Indiana really has not played well over the last couple weeks. This might be a 6 or 7 loss for them. Mississippi and Florida is the only match between ranked teams. It's going to be a good SEC tilt. Mississippi is kind of like Cincinnati. They like to beat guys up down low. Ronaldo, Sidney, those guys. Florida has a lot of shooters, a lot of gunners. It's gonna be who basically can control the game. I think Florida is gonna be too much from outside for Mississippi to handle. One last game I want to touch on, actually. A lot of people aren't talking about these guys, but the Murray State Racers. They may not be in a mega conference, they may not be in a power conference, but they're still playing good basketball, and they're the only undefeated team left in the NCAA. They're playing the Eastern Illinois Panthers on the weekend. If you guys want to take take a second to check that out, that'd be great. Give those guys some support. Once again, I'm your host, Daniel Smith. This has been another week on the Site for Sports. If you have anything to say, you can comment, you can post on the blog, and we'll see you next week. Thanks again. Peace.